Good evening. Thanks very much for joining us on India Business Hour. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines we're tracking tonight. Paytm gets a thumbs up after assuring investors on its path to profit. SoftBank trims its stake in Policy Bazaar, and more than 2 crore shares get lapped up in minutes. Is the worst over for new age companies? A CNBC-TV18 analysis shows share prices of some companies could be bottoming out. The Sensex and the Nifty snap an 8-day winning streak amidst weak global cues and across-the-board selling. End a record-breaking week with a 1% gain. All sectoral indices except Nifty PSU banks and metals end in the red. FII's buy over Indian equities were 214 crores today, while domestic institutional investors buy shares worth over 712 crores. The U.S. envoy to India, Elizabeth Jones, says a trade deal between both nations is off the table, adds that bilateral trade has hit $175 billion even without a deal. India's G20 Sherpa Amitabh Kant says the grouping will work towards a unified policy framework on cryptocurrency. The U.S. Congress begins its first hearing to examine the collapse of crypto exchange FTX, which has sent shockwaves across the nascent industry. U.S. President Biden says he is willing to speak to Putin if he's genuinely interested in ending the war. The Kremlin responds saying America's refusal to recognize Russia's newly annexed territories is hindering the search for a compromise. Meanwhile, a government official tells CNBC-TV18 they will continue to buy oil from Russia. The government's online marketplace is hot on the heels of Amazon and Flipkart. The 6-year-old website is expected to pip the e-commerce giants on gross merchandise value this year. The CEO of the portal says it is the largest public procurement platform in the world based on the number of transactions. A Niti Aayog official tells CNBC-TV18 that India's EV market may not need subsidies once the FAME scheme ends in March 2024. Adds that PLI schemes are good enough to bring down manufacturing costs. However, the World Economic Forum warns against ending subsidies abruptly, saying that 100% electrification in India would need capital allocation of almost $285 billion. Twitter suspends rapper Kanye West's account just 2 months after it was reinstated for posting the swastika. Elon Musk, who had welcomed Kanye to the platform earlier, says, "I tried my best." Hundreds of Indian students who returned from war-torn Ukraine have gone back to complete their education. We speak to the Indian students currently in Ukraine, explore why they have few options. Well, first up, the market action. The Sensex and the Nifty snapping an 8-day gaining streak amidst weak global cues and across-the-board selling, but all sectoral indices except the Nifty PSU Bank and Metal Index ending in the red. Despite this, though, the benchmark indices have closed the week with a gain of 1%. So that's the market action for you. But the big story that the world is watching closely, the European Union is reportedly edging towards a $60 price cap on Russian seaborne oil. Reports say there is also a mechanism to keep the cap at 5% below the market price. Sylvia Amaro joins us now with more. Sylvia, what are you picking up?
Yesterday, I had access to the document that European ambassadors are discussing. Indeed, the document says that they are going to push for a cap at $60 a barrel. The same document says that this cap is going to be reviewed regularly, and it aims to have at least 5% below the average market price for Russian oil. But of course, the key here is that even though the 27 European ambassadors have been discussing this for several days, for essentially at least 2 weeks in a row, the Polish government is still not in favor of this cap at $60 a barrel. And therefore, the Polish officials are still having discussions right now. They're discussing among government officials what they should do, because the majority of the EU is ready to go ahead with this cap. Let's see what sort of developments there will be today. There will be a new meeting in Brussels to discuss this later on today. It could be the case that we'll actually see a breakthrough in a couple of hours' time, but this is essentially all dependent on the position from the Polish government. And let's not forget that European sanctions on Russian oil kick in on Monday. And this cap on Russian oil is important because otherwise there will be this outright ban on Russian oil, and that could have even wider implications for oil prices. So all eyes on Brussels today.
Sylvia Amaro, many thanks. Yes, all eyes on Brussels today. Now, US President Joe Biden has said he is willing to speak with Russian President Putin if he is genuinely interested in ending the war. The Kremlin said that America's refusal to recognize Russia's newly annexed territories is hindering the search for a potential compromise. Meanwhile, back home, a government official has told CNBC-TV18 that India will continue to buy oil from Russia. That's not all. We also learned that the government is working out a realistic estimate of further compensation for oil PSUs. Sapna standing by with more details. Sapna.
Well, the government appears to be pretty much confident that oil imports from Russia are likely to continue uninterrupted. Russia, of course, is now among the top 3 oil suppliers to India. 10 months ago, that was not the scenario. And, some kind of assurance is there within the government circles that, supplies are likely to be uninterrupted despite the impending price cap on Russian crude that is being spoken about. Supplies, including from Russia, are unlikely to be interrupted, so to speak. Second, importantly enough, and we had just reported on this yesterday, so some further compensation is likely to be sought from Finance Ministry in terms of the cash losses suffered by the government-owned oil cos in the first half of the current financial year. These estimates are still being firmed up, and the compensation sought may be on an annualized basis, which is basically not only sticking to H1 actual losses, but also in terms of projected losses for Q3 and Q4. So that's something we'll have to keep a watch on. Last but not the least, also given to understand that probably the first draft cabinet note on the Kirit Parikh panel report on gas pricing, their recommendations, that first draft note should be ready by December end.
All right, Sapna, many thanks for joining us. The US envoy to India, Ambassador Elizabeth Jones, has said a trade deal between both nations is off the table, adding that bilateral trade has hit $175 billion even without one. Moreover, she said that it is India's sovereign right to accept or reject the upcoming EU price cap on Russian oil. Parikshit joins us now with more. Parikshit, there was talk about a possible India-US FTA, but on the back of the comments that we've seen coming in from the US envoy, it seems that's off the table.
Yes, the trade deal had got some momentum towards the end of the Trump presidency, but over the last 2 years, we've hardly heard about any conversations on the FTA between India and the United States. Today, the US envoy to India saying on record that India-US trade has reached $175 billion even without a trade deal. So this really makes her think whether a trade deal is even required. And currently, there is no conversation on a trade deal between India and the United States. So clearly, one is off the table at the moment. Speaking about the visa issue, which is definitely a pain point for many Indians, many H-1B visa holders. So the US ambassador said that they cleared a record 82,000 student visas this year, and they're working at a tremendous pace to staff their US embassy at the visa section, also consulates, to bring back capacities by summer of 2023. As far as the oil price cap is concerned, she said that yes, every country, including India, must realize the importance of this price cap to reduce the ability of Russia to wage a war. But at the same time, it is India's sovereign decision to accept the price cap or not. She also said that she does not expect G20 to be a forum where the Russia-Ukraine war will be debated in great detail, or a forum where India could play a role in bringing the war to an end as well. On semiconductors, soon after that massive investment that the US government is making in localization of increased semiconductor manufacturing in the US, she said that she expects increased engagement between Indian and US semiconductor companies on manufacturing more semiconductors in order to reduce the disruption in the supply chain.
All right, Parikshit, appreciate you joining us. The other big story tonight, shares of PB Fintech, that's Policy Bazaar, surging in trade after shares totaling 5.1% equity changed hands. More than 2 crore shares were sold within minutes after they were put up for sale at a 5% discount. Sources say SoftBank is likely to have offloaded partial stake after that one-year lock-in period for IPO anchor investors ended on the 11th of November. Meanwhile, shares of Paytm also soaring in trade today after the company assured analysts that it is on its path to profitability. The management telling analysts that they were confident about Paytm's strong growth and achieving an adjusted EBITDA target by September 2023, also alluding to a significant pickup in the credit card segment. So, how have new economy stocks fared so far, and have their valuations hit the bottom? Prashant joins us now to decode the stock movement and the trajectory going forward. Prashant.
let's just assess the damage first. And I think this is pretty simple, straightforward. This is the listed universe of new economy stocks, market cap at all-time highs, and the current market cap. The damage is clear, anything between 50 and 70, 75%. Top of the list, of course, is Paytm, followed by Policy Bazaar. Car trade, of course, very small. Nykaa, which is also now at all-time, almost at all-time lows. Zomato, delivery, etc. as well. You know, the next number is what is actually even more, it's stunning and sobering at the same time. This is what these two companies, specifically, Paytm, in its private life raised. They raised $4 billion as a private company before they came to the market. And the market cap after this week's rebound has only come back to $4.2 billion. That is stunning, right? You've raised equity capital of $4 billion. And now, after listing, the entire listing process, after a year of being listed, the market cap is basically $4 billion. Car trade, of course, much smaller entity, raised 350, and now it's about 280. Paytm's plunge actually is at a bit of a record as well. These are some of the global companies. The cutoff is 1 year after listing. It ranks as one of the top 4. But it's not just the listed space where we've seen large valuation cuts. You heard how one of the large investors in Byju's wrote down the value of their investment in Byju's. The peak was 22. They say the total company, according to their markdown, is worth $6 billion. That's sharp, right? That's the poster boy. And there are other companies, some very well known, some not so much, but Shop Clues, Practo, Quicker, etc. And you can see the erosion. And by the way, you talk to experts, the general feedback is more markdowns will happen. There is all the incentive in the world for founders and early investors not to do a down round, basically raise money at a lower valuation than the previous round. But if conditions don't change, they'll have to do that as we get into next year. Now, I'll come to the last and the most important bit. What I've done is I've taken EV by sales. EV by EBITDA is not possible for many of these because the EBITDA is, many of these companies don't make an EBITDA. And this is 1 year forward. Listed companies here versus global peers. So look at Paytm, and in the case of Paytm, because they do so many things, I've taken a variety of companies, some in the payment space, some in BNPL, some in the overall fintech ecosystem, and you can see how valuations have come off. Now, it's not the case that others have not fallen. Others have also fallen. But the point is, starting valuations, when these companies listed, and if you looked at valuations then compared to global peers, the gap was very wide. And in some of these cases, the gap is narrowed. Look at Nykaa. Nykaa, of course, is still the most expensive. There is Ulta Beauty. There is Bath & Body Works. Zomato up on your screen. Again, 6 times. You look at DoorDash, which is in the US, Deliveroo in the UK, and Meituan, which is the Chinese company. Much cheaper, much cheaper. Again, this is just the valuations. We're not looking at delivery, for example. You could argue and say they're asset light. Many of these other companies are asset heavy. There are differences in business model, and it's not possible to go into all of them, but this is the valuation. Let's just go back to delivery once. Delivery is interesting because I think it's also delivery is at about, 2.3 times. You look at YTO, SF Holdings, 2 Chinese and 2 US companies. Again, they've come off quite a bit. The last is PB Fintech, which will come up on your screen. 6.2 times, and the big one I could find was Goosehead Insurance, which is now at about 5.9 times EV by sales. So again, as I said, this is not a clear-cut answer whether companies have fallen, stocks have fallen enough and they'll do very well from here straight up. But this gives you a sense that valuations in many of these cases are not so out of whack compared to where some of these global peers are trading at this point in time. Perhaps, just perhaps, for some of them, you started the process of some sort of bottom formation.
Prashant, many thanks for joining us. Yes, that is a very important question, and we will see whether these prices have in fact bottomed. Now, the NCLAT has directed the CCI to review the 1,788 crore rupee penalty imposed on 5 tyre companies over alleged cartelisation. The tribunal cited arithmetic calculation and typo errors in CCI proceedings. The companies that face the penalty include Apollo Tyres, MRF, JK Tyres, Birla Tyres and SEAT. India's electric vehicle market may not need subsidies once the FAME scheme ends in March 2024, as per Niti Aayog official Randhir Singh. However, the World Economic Forum has warned against ending subsidies abruptly.
When the incentives were given, the customers are already sensitized, market is developed, market is nudged. Now it has reached to a stage wherein if the right vehicle at the right price is available, which will be done through these two payments, then definitely the market is going to pick up and it will no longer need the support, the fiscal support at all.
I would assume, there would be a requirement for subsidies to continue beyond 2024 as well. As, my colleague was saying that other markets as well will have subsidies, and, India will need to be at par with other markets in that sense.
Well, let's see what happens to FAME subsidies for the EV space come 2024. Now, it may be just 6 years old, but the government's online marketplace has carved itself a solid chunk of business. With the enthusiastic backing of government departments, it has recorded a gross merchandise value that rivals that of private players like Amazon India or Flipkart, and public procurement numbers that put it among the top 3 portals in the world. Abhimanyu Sharma finds out what worked and spoke to CEO Prashant Kumar Singh to check on what's ticking at GEM.
Watch out, Amazon and Flipkart. There is a new e-commerce giant in town. At 4 p.m. on the 29th of November, the government's e-marketplace crossed rupees 1 lakh crores in procurements for this financial year. In FY22, the portal recorded a gross merchandise value of $14.2 billion. In comparison, Amazon India clocked a GMV of $17 billion, while Flipkart clocked $23 billion. Of course, being a government portal that has the almost undivided support of government departments, the comparison may be a little unfair. But the other feather in its cap is not. As global public e-procurement portals go, only the portals of South Korea and Singapore rank higher. Both have been operational for over a decade. CEO Prashant Kumar Singh says the portal is on track for faster growth.
We had targeted for 1.5 lakh crore for this fiscal, but we are way beyond that limit. In terms of sheer numbers, that is the number of people who are hooked onto us, the number of transactions that are done, we are the largest in the world, largest government procurement system. We just finished about 1.3 crore transactions a short while back. In case our scope is expanded, the growth at which we are growing, we can easily be number 1 in value terms also very soon.
Average daily orders on the portal have almost doubled in FY23 compared to FY21. While its current mandate is only to meet the requirements of central and state governments, government departments, PSUs and cooperatives, the GEM is looking to evolve and grow. Currently, the Defence Ministry is its largest procurer amongst central ministries, followed by the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. Among PSUs, IOC and SAIL are the largest participants, and among states, Gujarat, Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh lead the list of procurers. But the GEM expects to cross bigger milestones soon.
The better we do, the more prospects we'll have. So we'll have to demonstrate that trust with the ecosystem. Once that is there, I think sky is the limit. We are trying to engage with all the other bigger states who are still not doing procurement on GEM. And I'm very hopeful that given the advantages that the portal has to offer, very soon, I think in the next 6-7 months, the figures will show a very healthy growth from states as well.
With integrated payments, a fully established audit trail and fast-track procurement enabling direct purchase up to order values of 25,000 rupees, the government estimates it will see savings of up to 11,500 crore rupees in FY22, all thanks to the value delivered through procuring on the GEM portal. In New Delhi, Abhimanyu Sharma for CNBC-TV18.
Well, time for us to head to a short break, but up next, hundreds of Indian students who returned from war-torn Ukraine have gone back to... A quick check of the global headlines tonight. Twitter has suspended rapper Kanye West's account just 2 months after he was reinstated for posting the swastika and making other comments. Elon Musk had welcomed Kanye back to the platform earlier, but today saying, and I quote, "I tried my best." Meanwhile, Musk has kicked off deliveries of semi-Tesla heavy-duty electric trucks 5 years after unveiling the design. Musk briefly alluded to the tumultuous 5 years and said, and I quote, "I'm sorry for the delay." And more on Musk. Let's talk about microchips in human brains. Billionaire Elon Musk says that his technology will fight neurological disorders, help the blind see and the paralyzed walk. In his words, he wants to put a smartwatch in a human skull. Archana Solanki is here to answer how coin-sized chips are expected to work. Archana.
Elon Musk claims that he has taken another step towards putting tiny coin-sized computers or microchips in human brains. And if all goes well as far as the FDA approvals are concerned, then human trials will begin in the next 6 months. Musk says that his implants can fix anything and everything that's wrong with the brain, be it restricted bodily functions, poor eyesight, deafness, brain injuries, or helping people with spinal cord injuries to walk again. He also aims to treat brain diseases such as Parkinson's, dementia, and Alzheimer's. Musk's vision includes aligning the brain with artificial intelligence. In his words, he wants to replace a piece of your skull with a smart watch, for the lack of a better analogy. Wondering how that works, and is it even possible? Do you see this visual? Musk says that this monkey is using a brain implant to control a cursor and then type on a computer. Another video shows a monkey playing the video game Pong using his implant, the brain implant. Now, Musk's company, Neuralink, is developing a device that will link the brain with a computer. This tech consists of a coin-sized chip, electrode wires, and a robot. All these three things are going to do this. Now, Musk's engineers say that a piece of the skull is removed using precise robotic needles, and the small chip is placed in about 15 minutes. The electrodes are placed in the brain to read signals, and the software then decodes these signals into actions. The chip runs on a battery, and one will have to charge it. This tech will enable a mobile phone, a computer, or any device to be directly linked with the brain activity. For example, if the chip is implanted in a person's brain, they can move a mouse simply by thinking about how they want to move it. So far, this technology has been tested on pigs and monkeys, and the company aims to initiate human trials in the next 6 months. Elon Musk has even pledged to get one implant himself.
Archana, many thanks for joining us. If it does happen, this is going to be a massive breakthrough. Now, it's been over 9 months since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Soon after the war broke out, nearly 18,000 Indian students who were studying in Ukraine were brought back after surviving an arduous journey to reach India. 21-year-old Naveen Shekharappa from Karnataka died when Kharkiv was bombed, and a few others were injured in separate incidents. However, many students who returned initially have now been forced to go back to Ukraine to complete their education. Radhika Udas reports on the plight of these students and why they have very few options available. Take a look.
On the 24th of February, Russia invaded Ukraine. The invasion forced thousands of Indian students studying in Ukraine to rush to neighboring countries. The Indian government's Operation Ganga evacuated 20,000 Indian nationals, 18,000 of whom were students. 9 months since, many of these students have returned to Ukraine because they've been unable to secure a transfer to any other university or complete their course remotely.
Main thing is the contractor. When you get the good contractor, you will get your document as fast as possible. So we was afraid, and we called our contractor every day to just give us our document and let us go from here. After 25 days, we got our document and we rushed to come back here for the transfer, and we took the transfer here.
With winter approaching and Europe staring at an energy crisis, many of these students say they are facing severe power outages. This has made attending classes difficult. Even those students who opted for online classes are struggling.
According to me, now, I'm in second year, so there are not many clinical subjects. But in third year, I have clinical subjects, and according to NMC, we have to be present there. We have to do offline studies in our clinical subjects. So second year, I have decided to stay here at home only, and maybe I hope that till third year the things get fine and conditions get better. And in third year, I'm planning to go back to Ukraine itself.
The uncertainty prompted many students to come together and file a petition in the Supreme Court in July this year. They sought to be accommodated in Indian medical colleges. The government has opposed this request on 2 grounds. 1, there is no legal obligation to allow such a move. And 2, this would hurt the standards of medical education in India. According to government data, out of the 15,783 students who returned from Ukraine, 640 have gone back. A notification by the National Medical Commission says students can continue their education under the Academic Mobility Program by studying in partner universities in different countries. Nearly 170 students have been granted admission under this scheme. The remaining 14,973 have opted for online classes, citing problems with the mobility program.
Yes, I am like ready for mobility, but you provide now, then we will able to achieve. But because the semester starts in the month of September, so like literally half of semester is already gone. All universities are not issuing transcript of students on time.
But relief from the court has still not come. The Apex Court heard the plea for the first time on the 29th of November and has posted the matter to the 8th of December.
More than 15 lakh students applied to become doctors in the last academic year. Only 5% of those eventually got an MBBS seat. That's because only 86,000 seats were available in more than 600 colleges across India. The mismatch between demand and supply is stark, and this is the main reason why thousands head to universities abroad for a degree in medicine. In Mumbai, Radhika Udas.
Well, challenging times continue for the students who return from Ukraine, many of whom have had to find their way back. With that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. Thanks so much for watching. Stay tuned to CNBC-TV18. The news continues. Have a great weekend.